morning, Central Texas. Welcome to Kids Community Connections, 103.1 Kids FM. I'm Phyllis Jones, your host for this morning. And you know what? We're going to talk about a topic that we need to always talk about, because guess what? It happens every day. And in fact, in the United States, we have 1.5 million grandparents that are now parents to their grandchildren. You know, so there was a time when you became a grandparent, when your parents were 18, your kids were 18, and they, packed their little bags, and you were going, yay! Because you assumed that you were finished. You thought you were. And then through a lot of different things, and it can be so many things, you look up and you find out that those little short people called grandkids are coming back to you. You find out that here they come, they're here, and you have to relearn all over again. Relearn everything, because the different times, and I'll say relearn everything is, I've never been a foster parent or anything with my grandchildren, but I remember when my daughter brought him back home to see, to visit, I was going to take him with me to see some friends. So I grabbed his diaper bag and I'm flying out the door. My daughter calls me back. She said, you forgot something. I said, I have the kid. I got the bag. What else? She said, car seat. Car who? Okay, fine. So I took the car seat, put it in the back of my vehicle, and guess what? I didn't know how to strap it in. So at that point, I was real frustrated because I didn't know what was going on. I was like, this is just, so I can imagine that point. I was frustrated now for a long time, but my thing was, how can I not know this? Then I realized, because I don't have anybody that little, so I realized if I went through that, just that moment, how it would be if I had them the whole time. I would be teaching them, but they would be teaching me a lot more, because I would be lost in a world that I didn't deal with for years. Well, this morning we're going to talk about our grandparents becoming parents again to their grandchildren, and I'm saying it's through all kind of reasons. So, it's not only because the parents got in trouble. No, sometimes the parents passed away, or sometimes parents are very sick, and they can no longer take care of the kids because they can barely take care of their own health. So the grandparents step in. And guess what? We're going to talk about the real part, the part of it's not just bring their stuff over to me and I got them. So I have Mr. and Mrs. Bynum, and I have Mr. Prelow. And I know both of them. Mr. Prelow, I've been knowing his grandkids for quite a while. And first of all, I admire what you're doing, because you could have been doing something else. You could have said, no, I don't have time for this. Oh my gosh. But you took the time to actually say, you know what? This is it. This is what I got to do. This is what I have to do. So, Mr. Bynum, let us know your story.
Well, me and my wife, we have an interesting journey of a story. When our kids first came into our lives, the very first time our daughter got pregnant, she was at home. So that wasn't a problem. When she came 18, she left with the oldest. And then she got pregnant again. We felt at that time, there's no way we could raise any grandkids. There's no way we got to do it. Right. And because I was a social worker, I looked into adoption. That was a great thing. Our daughter looked at adoption. So she adopted our second granddaughter out. And so we felt like that was a great choice. Me and my wife met the adopted family. We had a good time. Thought she would be raised in a very good home, though we weren't thinking about the separation. Right. We weren't thinking about her not knowing her brother, or brother not knowing her. And so 3 months later, we found out that the adopted family returned her. They thought she had Down syndrome, because my wife's family has a very high Asian population. Right. And so her eyes were slanted. And because of that, they said, oh, Down. And our daughter was so overwhelmed, we asked if we could help. Did we not? Yes. And that help was 2 years. 2 years with a notarization saying, okay, they're placed with us. We had to do much of what you say. Right. Find the right transportation, get the medical card. Because she was getting child support, we were able to get that. She didn't fight us on that, but sometimes in grandparents' lives, the child will fight you for the child support, so you won't get the kids if I can't keep my child support. But in our case, she did. And for 2 years, we had the kids until she got pregnant with the third. And then she took both the kids away. And our daughter was just this very accident her first year in college. So she was home for 6 months, and she left. And our other youngest daughter got married at 18, and she left. So one day, me and my wife looked up at that time, and we both had kids when we got married, so we never had not have kids. So for 2 years, we had no kids in the home, and we thought, this is what it's like. Yeah. We're like, wow, this is great. We're just going out to eat, doing everything. And then we get a call. And I went back to social worker. We got a call right before my grandson's birthday, November 19th, before that the kids came in custody. And do we want them? And at that time, she had 2 more.
Oh,
so now
wow.
she has 4 kids. And of course, you say yes.
Yeah.
Not knowing. First, we didn't think we could take care of 1, let alone 2, now 4. But you do what you have to do.
Right.
We call it a choice without choosing. And so when me and my wife said yes, they said okay. And then we were in Topeka, Kansas, and they were in Wichita, Kansas, 130 miles. So we had to meet and do that. Because they were in police protected custody for 72 hours, we could not even see our grandkids.
Okay.
So we didn't know what was going on with them, if they were okay, all these other things. And then after all that, we had to end up moving from Topeka, Kansas to Wichita, Kansas. I quit my job, my church. We quit left our family because they would not give us the kids because they said the distance. Now, mind you, I was a social worker working in Child Protective Service. So I kind of know what the system's like.
Right.
And I thought, man, I'm a social worker. There's no way they're going to treat me like they may treat other families. Oh, we got treated worse.
Oh, wow.
So we ended up moving to Wichita, staying in a weekly rental. I'm driving back and forth to Emporia, where I was working as a social worker. They kept saying, okay, you got to find you a place because we were in a weekly rental. Finally found a 2-bedroom apartment. Then they told us after we got our apartment and everything, well, you can't have the kids.
Oh, not enough room.
No, they said because they're established now with a foster home. And because of the foster home they were in, they didn't want to disrupt the kids.
In a foster home, though.
In a foster home. But we knew the foster parents, and we had, because not all foster homes have African-American foster parents. That is a great need. All right, now if I could say anything else. Our black kids get adopted out to all other cultures, which in and of itself is not a bad thing, but they lose their identity.
Right.
When we don't look at trying to keep a place with the same culture. So we need more foster parents, but a lot of times the system makes it harder for African Americans to want to be a foster parent.
Right.
Just making it out there.
Yeah. That's
And
true.
so when all that happened, we talked to the foster parents, and they both quit being foster parents.
Oh.
They said, we're not going to allow this. So they stood up for us, which we are forever thankful. And then next day, they brought all the kids over. So now we're in a 2-bedroom. Bruce had to sleep on the couch in the front room. Mason and a baby, which was Kiana, had to sleep with us.
Oh, wow.
The first day we got her, she sneezed and covered me with blood and her with blood.
Oh.
And then we found out she had cancer.
Oh, wow.
The pediatrician was mad at me because I said that something was wrong with her, and the doctor got mad at and said that there's nothing wrong with her. Just go get some allergy medicine. So told us to go to the supermarket, just get us a allergy medicine. So I did that, and then the next day after that, she looked like she got really worse. She couldn't hold her head up or anything. And I told my husband, since we just got through our first time going to Wichita, we didn't know where the hospital was. I said, just take her to any hospital to find out what's going on with her, because it didn't look like that. Looked like she was just hanging on. And so my husband, I had the other kids with me. I stayed at home. So when he found a hospital, he called me up and said, guess what? There's nobody in the emergency room, so I'm getting all the help that I can get. And everybody, all the doctors are around trying to help her. Then he called me back up and said that they said that she had cancer. And so they tried to give her chemo, and that didn't work. So following that, they had to fly her to Children's Mercy Hospital. So after they did that, we had problems with the medical card, the social worker. We couldn't just give them permission to get her treated. I had to call them up to to wait for a social worker to come down there so she could get treated. Even though she's our grandkids, but what the problem is that they are our grandkids, but they are the state's too. Right. And that's the problem, is that people that have grandkids are they should be able to take their kids to the hospital anytime. They don't have to worry about being in state custody. But it was make a long story short, was though that they said that the doctor said it was like her breathing through a staring straw, and me and my husband didn't come and took her at that time. My husband didn't. Within an hour she could have died, because that's how bad it was. And then they had to do surgery because chemo didn't work, and they was thinking about cut through her brain or some kind of way to get it out. And everybody around the country was praying and everything, and then they found a way that they can just come up through her nose, through her nostril, and they found out that where the tumor was located, it was able to come out that way. Had attachment or something close to around her eye, but yeah. So it was really difficult to go through something like that. We wasn't expecting that from just getting the grandkids
right.
And that's one of the other things grandparents have to think about. What are the medical conditions of your kids? Like you said, some of these kids, when we as grandparents get them, it's because of trauma most of the time. Right. Whether they're, like you say, they're sick, whether there is abuse that going on. In our case, it was abuse. Our daughter was in domestic violence, was doing all kind of other things. And so you get these kids, and then in the system, it's a lot different than when you just have a guardianship or when you just have a notarization. Because for us, the system always told us they're in our custody, they're just placed with you. Yeah. Oh. So that, but they're our grandkids, but no, they're in our custody, but they're just placed with you. And yet there's no support. There was no, at that time, we're talking about 2000, let's see, we adopted 2010, so we're talking about somewhere around 2008. So a lot of things have changed, but yet things remain the same.
Okay, Mr. Prelow, how did you suddenly go from my chilling lifestyle to who and who?
Well, I tell you, it wasn't pretty. But I ended up getting custody of my grandkids back in 2008, and it was supposed to have been a temporary thing. But the temporary thing ended up, we had 10 years later. But I ended up getting them, the parents wasn't stable, didn't have a stable home for them. So, it was either they get put in the system or, hey, they come live with grandpa. So, of course, I wasn't going to let them go, wasn't going to let them put them in the system. So I ended up with them, and here we are today.
But question, did you know that one of your grandkids was special needs? Did you know that already? Because that's an extra, not to say it's not a burden, but it's an extra thing to know, because you got to know that just as well as everything else.
Correct. Well, when I got him, he was 6 months old. Okay. So at that time, I had no idea that he was autistic, and at the time I was married, so we just, we did a lot. He was 6 months old. As he got older, we was like, well, hey, he's not at the level of a 9-month-old, so we took him in and had him checked out and found out that he was autistic. And I tell you, it's dealing with an autistic child. I mean, he's special in his own way. He is a blessing, but it takes time and patience, and every day, I'm learning something from him. As I teach him, he teaches me. So it's an everyday thing. Some days are great, some days are not so great, but
So I'm gonna ask both of you that question, and you go, you gotta be kidding, but I have to ask that. So let's see, something happened, and you got the kids and the paperwork all done in a month, right?
No.
Double no.
Okay, now from the beginning, didn't you think that grandparents had rights? I mean, before this started, didn't you think that grandparents had rights?
Well, because I have my degree in social work, right? I knew that grandparents had rights, but I didn't understand what that meant.
Oh, okay.
I thought grandparents have rights means we get to see our kids, we get to do this, we get to do that. We have rights. We're the grandparents. Then I found that right is very limited.
We went to go on vacation. We found out that we had to get state custody, to agree with us to do that, and I feel like that they were more in the state custody than we as parents or grandparents didn't have right at all to do things what we want to do. We want to take them and put them in sports and do things, and they told us that we couldn't do that. We had funding for that, and so yeah, grandparents don't have rights.
Well, that was Kansas, but it's a little different when they're in custody and when they're not. So you can talk more.
So what happened to you in Texas? So, but it wasn't fast, but it wasn't. Was it the same?
No, my with Texas, I got to say it was fairly easy with Texas. I didn't have that problem.
A long time ago.
So did you have to go before? Did you have to do the fostership before kinship, or you didn't have to do all that?
No, I didn't have to do all that. It was a matter of when I got them, I just had my police report and went through, got me an attorney. I had an attorney and drew up all the paperwork, and we went before the judge, and the judge explained, okay, hey, we're putting them in your care. These are basically your kids, the parents and all, not taking nothing from the parents, but in order for them to get them back, they have to prove to the state of Texas that they're stable and able to take care of the children.
Wow. So that was a night and day experience.
Yeah.
Mr. Prelow's experience was not as
Well, his experience, like when our daughter gave us kids, it was much better experience in Kansas. We didn't have to go through all that. They were helping us. They were, we were struggling, but they were helping us, and we could take them on vacation. It's only when they come in state custody,
right?
And in his case, the state said either we'll place them with you or well, they'll come in custody. That's a new thing that they've been doing now, where they'll take a child. Instead of putting them in state custody, they say, okay, now we're going to put them in with the grandparents. And it looks like their numbers have gone down in the foster care system.
Right.
Because they're no longer foster kids.
Right.
They're with grandpa. But what happens, of course, as he could test, the support is not really there as it should be. We have kinship track, and then we have foster parent track.
Right.
But a lot of things that happens, like when you have the kids, like for us, we adopted our 4 kids because we had no choice. Okay. We could not get permanent guardianship or even guardianship. We had to adopt.
Adopt them.
And once you adopt, then you're no longer a kinship worker, you're no longer a foster worker. You have an adoption support worker, which calls you once a year to see if you haven't got rid of the kids yet. And for us, we got adoption subsidy because with 4 kids, of course, they look at that. But like when my grandson turned 19 or 18, he graduated. And the moment he turned 18, all medical things was gone. So he no longer have medical insurance. And then that summer, December the 20th, right after he graduated, went to college, he came back to visit some friends, went to a high school party, got shot in the neck.
Oh, wow.
Some gang members shot up the house.
Oh, that was
close to Maxdale Elementary.
It was in the paper by Maxdale Elementary School. Yeah, I remember that.
And so he got shot in the neck. No health insurance, no nothing. Though we talk about health crisis today, they did an awesome job. They didn't say because you don't have this, because you're a black male, because of this, we're not going to take care of you. The doctors did an excellent job over at Scott and White and Temple. They worked on it for 8 hours. They had to take a vein from his leg and put it in his neck. We didn't know if he could walk. We didn't know if he could talk. There was a whole lot of things. So even when you're, you look at your kids are older, like ours, they're your child. And when you adopt, they're your family. Of course, they're your family regardless. But the fact was, if we could have got permanent guardianship, he would have still had a medical card. They would have had money for college. He would have still been able to do a lot of things that, because of our economic situation at this time, we're not able to do. So his bill, because they have the victim cry unit, they're helping, but
they help.
His bill's over $100,000, which of course, and they've only paid fractions of that. And so we have to try to figure out how can he get some medical, how can do that. He's working now. I mean, he's talking, and our daughter with cancer's cancer free.
Good.
So I just want to let y'all know that, just in case somebody. She's turned 12 the 8th, and she's a go-getter.
That's good.
But like I said, each system has its own thing.
Right.
But what grandparents has to do is come together, whether they're in custody, whether they're not in custody, find resources to be able to talk about when you have a child with autism, when you have that. I mean, just when we moved to Texas,
Right.
and get them enrolled in school, even though we had adoption, we had to go get our marriage license.
Right. Yes.
Because both me and my wife were married before, but her maiden name was on our marriage license. We had to get a divorce decree. we had to get the adoption papers. I said, we had to do all this stuff just to get enrolled in school. And I know there's a family that's moving from one state to come here, and they're just now getting their grandkids. We started a Facebook page of grandparents.
That's what I was going to ask you. Okay, there's a support group, and not really a support group. There's a talk group for just about everything.
Right.
So, okay, I've been here for quite a while in this area, and I belong to a lot. I wouldn't belong to it, but I know about most groups. But so there is no group or that you all have formed, because we couldn't form that. You have to, where you all can sit down and one, educate new parents that's coming in, but also deal with whatever, walls that you find. Like Mr. Prelow, you had a whole different experience. So if you two were talking to somebody, you all hold a wealth of information from two different sides, from two different states, where you could explain, okay, this is where it's done in Texas. You might say, okay, I know where you came from, and I know how it began, but then you got but this is how you could do it here. So there's no group to sit down and just say, hey, listen, we talk every month or once every other month. There's no group?
No, I haven't ran across a group. Who I deal with is more on with Prince.
With Prince, yes.
More on the autistic side, as far as programs that are here and that are not here. So, I find myself talking to a bunch of people that are in my shoes trying to find the programs which are not here. So slowly but slowly we're making progress. I mean, it's not as fast as I want it to be, but we're getting there. You got to crawl before you walk.
So okay, you two don't know me, but he does. So the three of you are going to form a group, an organization, a group, right?
Absolutely.
Of course y'all are.
Absolutely.
Because you don't need 1 million people to start anything.
No.
All you need is you get 2 people, 3 people together, same mindset. We got to get this done, because there is a wealth of information out there. But once you form, you'll grow real fast. But also you find out a lot of information that you need to have. I always say you 3 people from any information you need to have.
Yes.
You're just 3. And I said it the other day, and I can say this: Mr. Prelow cuts my grass, because when his grandson was in my room, he couldn't cut my grass, because can't do that. But the other day when he cut my grass, I had a book. I had a book, the 504 law.
Right.
And I know that book is not easy to get. They want you to download it, but I'm the state education chair for the NAACP, so it's kind of hard to tell me you can't send me something. So I got the book, and I waited. I said, "Oh, good." He's like, "Come on," and I would know he probably, what the heck is she? Because it was in a big envelope, and I know he was like, "What is Phyllis going to give me?" But in it was everything that I think that he needs.
It's wonderful. I'm still reading it today. It's a lot of information.
Yes.
It's a lot of information.
So, when you form groups like that, now he has that book. He can share that book, or either ask me for another one and go through and say, okay, grandparents, I know this is not it, but this is how it is. This is what you got. You as a grandparent now, you had a grandchild with cancer. Okay, that's still a distance away in mindset on today versus a grandparent now. Right. So you could talk about that. So you two already have a whole wealth of information to sit down and give other people that's going through. And also the difference between, okay, I'm on the Child Welfare Board amongst 50 other things. We only deal with foster kids. We do. And the strange thing is we buy what welfare won't buy, or what the system won't buy, or whatever they foster parents won't buy. We furnish that. We furnish bikes if they need to go to work. We've got teeth being done that, the kids want something or whatever, and we'll pay for it. And the state reimburses, which is really weird, because the state giving us money to give to the kid. Right. But like I said, we helped one lady, and she was a foster parent for her grandkids, and we helped her whatever she needed, something that we made sure is necessary. But when then she did kinship and she sent us a letter, we had to tell her, we can't help you no more. Because we can't, because our kids were no longer foster. So she came to our meeting. She did. She came to the meeting, and she wasn't mad, but she didn't understand what we were talking about. So we know how to explain it. We explained it to her. She said, that's not fair. We said, we understand what you're saying. We did. We understood. We said, we understand what you're talking about. We said, but this is the rules we got to follow. Right. You know, and she said, is there anything else? You know, so I'm searching my brain because, like I said, I belong to a whole bunch of stuff, and there was nothing in my brain that said where she could go. There was nothing. I told her, I said, I don't know. I don't know if it's a support group. I don't know. You know, so yeah.
Phyllis, if I can say something,
sure.
You know, and that's where I have problems at now with understanding the two systems.
Right.
You know, in my eyes, what, 5, 6 systems. In my eyes, you know, as a grandparent, you know, okay, I'm taking on raising the grandkids, you know, and I, in my mind, and what I've come to see, okay, and you know, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
It was better. I can't say it was better, but it would have, for us on a financial level, they would have been better off in the foster system than they are with me.
And kinship.
Kinship, because with the foster and the kinship, the state would give more, but as a grandparent, it's less.
Right.
And I don't understand it, and I'm steady fighting that, and you know, I want answers to that, and it's gonna take me some time to get those answers. You know, and I'll give you a prime example. Prince receives SSI.
Right.
Well, he only gets partial, because once he comes 17, 18, okay, well then we'll give him full. Gracie, on the other hand, Gracie, on the other hand.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gracie, on the other hand, you know, okay, is where you only can get so much. You know, oh well, the state is only going to give it this because, okay, well then you haven't adopted her. Then, okay, if I would have adopted her, then we wouldn't be here, because you'll say, well, you make too much money here, you do this or you do that. You know, and it's just, it's not fair. It is not fair. It is, to me, it is just so, it needs to be flipped. So, you know, that's where my problem lies with the system there, as far as on the getting care, medical and all that. I have medical for them. Thank God I retired out the military and I was able to put them on my TRICARE. Right. And, but it's working out. But I will say that is my challenge now, is with the states for as medical and all that, the benefits for the kids and benefits for grandparents as raising those kids. Right.
So both of you, I'm asking you a question. I'm a political junkie. I'll admit that. I fight the legislators all the time. I even told the governor he was crazy. I did. I did. For real, I did. Well, this is what I did. We went and spoke to him, and he was out. Okay, I work for the school district and work with special needs kids. I've joined that for 25 whole years. So I'm not going to say I'm an expert, but I do know something after all those years. Well, he was talking about how about pre-K. And I'm big on pre-K. I think pre-K needs to be done because that's where we begin your child's life of school. It's no longer kindergarten taught you everything. It's pre-K taught you everything. Well, you know, we have all day pre-K and killeen only because Fort Hood pays for the other half. Oh, that's it. That's the only reason we have all day pre-K. But if we didn't, most places have half day or some. So he was bragging about pre-K. And he was saying that some of the children that are, he didn't say special needs or whatever. He said some of the kids that are on the other end of the spectrum, they get a little too much. Well, I felt that when he said that, I did. Because I'm looking at him, he's in a wheelchair. So I'm going to tell you what I did. And people who know me is not surprised. I stood up and I asked him, I said, a question. He said, yes. I said, because because he was talking about, you know, the other kids on the other end of the spectrum, those my kids. He said, I said, if I knocked you out your wheelchair and moved it over there, can you go get it? Well, you know, his aides came and stood by me. I'm like, whatever. But he looked at me. He said, no, I can't. I said, why not? He said, because I can't. No. Why can't you just get up, walk over there? I said, or can you crawl over there? He said, no, why not? It took him 5 minutes to say because he was disabled. That's all I wanted him to say. I said, now, because you're disabled, did they have to put a ramp for you to get up on the stage? He said, yes. I said, did they have to add a ramp all over this building anywhere you wanted to go? He said, yes. Why? Why do you get special treatment? He said, because... He said, I got you now. He did hit that point. You know, and he said, why'd you get drastic? I said, because I work special ed, and the only way we know to get you to understand us is to go bang right there. I said, you happen to be in a wheelchair. That was easy. He said, but you said knock me out the chair. Well, that's true. If I knocked you out of it, could you get back? You know, but so I'm a fighter. I will. But I can let you two know the legislator when we get off who you can get in contact with, who will fight for you, because I work with child sex trafficking, which is really, really heavy in all areas, and it's kids from 9 to 24. Do you know Texas created a committee, a agency for child sex trafficking? But guess what? They didn't fund it. So they created an agency and it exists, but it's not funded, so it can't function. So those are some of the things. So when you all form your group, I'll give both of you all the legislator to start talking to now. Even though the session's over, they craft bills all the time, so that you all can get that ball rolling. And next time for the legislative session, Grandparents' Day will be at the Capitol, and you will go up there like everybody else and lobby them and say, hey, this is what's missing. Because sometimes if we don't tell them, they don't know.
With all that said, I'll be in Washington coming up Wednesday. I work to be part of the National Child Abuse Prevention, but CBCAP people, what they call it, the ones who get the money from the Title 4E, which goes to all social welfare things.
Right.
And being one of the only few kinship parents there, it's amazing how they talk about foster care, talk about this, and they seem to forget us. And then when the lone wolf crying in the wilderness. Oh yeah, our foster parents, because we know that right now 51% of our kids in foster care going to kinship care, and we care about kinship. We do this kinship, but they never mention us. So one of the things I will be doing is doing that. And when I was in Kansas, I was a coordinator, and I did kinship groups, I did adoption groups, and I did fatherhood groups. So like I told you, we've only been here a little over 2 years and a half, but we were technically homeless because we lived with my daughter for 8 months. Because I left Kansas, I quit my job.
Okay.
I was so ready to get out of there.
Okay, we're going to take a break and come right back.